The fix was in, not my words, but rather the words of the conservative Wall Street Journal regarding the acquittal of Ken Paxton by the Texas Senate. Ludicrous, says Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick in response. This after he read a lengthy pre-written speech literally moments after the final verdict, excoriating the Texas House for impeaching Paxton on a 121-23 bipartisan vote. Critics claim Patrick had 3 million reasons to put his thumb on the scale, the amount of a pretrial donation by a pro-Paxton PAC. The Lieutenant Governor is now on a multi-venue public relations campaign defending the verdict.
Our members looked at the evidence and said, it's not there. There's no there. And so he was acquitted. The House never proved their case. They had a weak case, and every witness they put on the stand, which was now under oath, they crumbled, all but one.
With all due respect, Governor, that's not even close to what I witnessed, and I've been analyzing testimony and evidence for 38 years. Mateer, Penley, Maxwell, Vassar, and Brickman, none crumbled, and to say so, in my estimation, is demonstrably untrue. In the meantime, open hostilities are fully underway with several local GOP organizations, including the one here in Harris County, voting to censure House Speaker Dade Phelan. Panel, Dan Patrick promised a political trial right here in this studio, and that is exactly what Texans got. Marcus Davis, get us going on this.
I don't know if I can get us going. You know, this is I remember when the verdict came out. When the indictment came, and one of our political colleagues says the House has sent a message, and I didn't understand what he meant by that. I knew what he was trying to say, but I really didn't understand what he meant because I didn't believe it would happen. We do not have the stomach in this nation to prosecute our political leaders. It's just not there. And it's so unfortunate that this is happening right in front of the American people, right in front of Texas citizens, and we're being swindled. And those talking points that the Lieutenant Governor just spewed, people will repeat them, they'll regurgitate them, they'll add on to them, and we'll go on tomorrow like nothing happened.
That's right. All right, Gary Polland, I really respect your legal mind, and I know you watched this trial. Did what the Lieutenant Governor claimed, was that what you saw?
I didn't see what he claims to have occurred. I will say this, that the House prosecutors made some mistakes in the way they presented the case. I think they went with a shotgun as opposed to a rifle. There were too many counts in too little time. When they knew there was a restriction on time, you had to really focus. So they didn't do that. And it was a political trial. That's also part of what happened. And so the burden of proof was on the prosecutors. And the Republicans, obviously, for the most part, wanted to be sympathetic with a fellow Republican. I don't know where they get this idea that all the witnesses were bad. I don't think that was the case. I think that a number of the counts, in my mind, were proven. So it'll be interesting to see how this all goes forward. But the fact there's been so much rhetoric defending what happened means that maybe people think that maybe what they're saying isn't actually correct.
Does it make you suspicious, all this rhetoric and pre-planned, media attack?
It sure could be. And I also want to say this. I thought that, for the most part, Dan Patrick did a good job presiding over the trial. I didn't like all his rulings, but I thought he came across as trying to be fair to both sides. And then we get this speech right after, and I'm going, whoa, where did that come from?
Well, it's easy to do when you know the outcome.
All right, Tamara Bell has been locked and loaded for 2 weeks.
Good morning, boys and girls. Today's word is DNA. Damn no allies. This is in every politician's DNA. He wasn't never gonna get convicted. I mean it. It was irrelevant to them what he had did on any level. You talking about a man who had an affair at his wife's job with 5 kids and didn't give a damn. Who thought he was gonna go to jail? They didn't want to clean that clauses out, so they were not about to condemn him. Dan Patrick lent him money. Now, who the hell gonna let somebody go to jail who owed him money? I gotta pay me back. So he surely was not gonna get convicted. This is not surprising at all. It isn't even disappointing. What it shows is this. You can sit up here and say everything you want to say about the corruption in Harris County, and you don't give a damn about the one in Austin.
All right, said Yolita, this should be an opportunity for Democrats to say, look, they won't even police their own. How can they, point the finger at us?
Yeah, no, this could be an opportunity. The Republican so-called civil war has just started. They both already has shot off, the bullets on both sides, Dan Patrick and Phelan. The issue here is that let's see the casualties of the Civil War Republican, and then there might be some opportunity. There might be some vulnerability in terms of the folks that get wiped out by their own party, the Republican Party, spending all this money. But on the Dan Patrick issue, his departing statement was very telling. The flamboyant Busby and all of that interruption really stifled the whole process. It was just, you could see it was a biased trial in public. I mean, Dan Patrick is not an unbiased person. He serves on the Republican Party, so therefore, at the end, his telling statement really showed his intentions, and it was just it was a huge waste of taxpayers' money.
All right, Holly Hansen, I saved you for last because I wanted to get some journalistic context, and I also wanted to get some of your personal reads because you've got a lot of life under your belt, and you've watched these guys. You've got.
What do you mean by that, Frank?
And that is, in the most respectful sort of way. I mean, what we're talking about here.
Experience matters.
What we're talking about here is the future governance of Texas and the standards.
I'd like to say that, of course, it was a political trial, but they did set that burden of proof pretty high. So there was a high bar that the House managers had to get to get him convicted. I think to some extent probably the senators felt a little bit backed into a corner because if they had voted to impeach and the Paxton would be acquitted on the securities fraud, the FBI investigation yields nothing, and the whistleblower lawsuit gets dismissed and they voted to impeach, now they're in a really hot political seat. So I do think that they felt backed into a corner. There were some seriously disturbing revelations, I think, in the course of the trial. And as the defense noted, if we're going to impeach people for having affairs, no one was denying the affair, I noticed, we'd be doing a lot of impeaching, male and female, of state politicians. But I would like to, one more thing, there's one prescient voice that I would like to go back to on the day of the impeachment voice in the House. Harold Dutton, Democrat, warned that the process had been problematic, and he was present not voting.